Hello and welcome to the Wrestle Wrestling channel with myself, Kieran, and of course Gareth over there
That's
to the right of the screen. And today we're going to be talking about the best matches for us, in our personal tastes, of September in
thing
wrestling.
is, Kieran, it's just our opinion, and I respect our opinion, right? And
Yes,
if anyone doesn't respect our opinion, they can get.
that's every Twitter person for you. So we're just going to be talking. I'm just going to talk about it briefly. The format of this, essentially, we've come up with three top matches, not necessarily in any order. There's not a one, two, three. They're just top three matches that we feel have stood out above the rest of the month of September, and we each have an honourable mention that we feel should be talked about and we're a big fan of. So I'll get started right away with my little honourable mention, and that is Ibushi versus Jay White in the
On the G1.
G1 Climax. And if I am right in saying it was one of the first nights, if not the first night, right?
I can't remember
I
exactly. I think it was first or second.
Yeah,
In terms of at least for A block, obviously. So yeah, I think it was second actually.
it might
Uh,
well have been. It might well have been. I'm just gonna fact check myself. It was second. It was the second night. Well,
yeah,
the second night of A block, so technically the third night. By the
yeah,
way, enough of all that. Absolute stellar match. Stellar match. It was really exciting for me personally to see Jay White again,
yeah,
because thoroughly missed his presence within New Japan, because of course New Japan has still been going on with people, that with the people that are available to them, whereas a couple of the Bullet Club guys, you got a couple of from Chaos, a variety of guys, they weren't available, and one of which was Jay White, and I think he has the most presence within the
yeah,
company.
yeah,
So to have him back as a whole was great. But this match was a Jay White heel masterclass. Absolute heel, like, it was great. It was absolutely great. His work in regards to the crowd was like impeccably good, because of course, with anyone familiar with New Japan, it's all about respect, respecting the rules and such. They're very, very, very good at, they're incredible at that. So, given the coronavirus, they're not allowed to shout, the spread, all that obvious stuff, and he's just completely mocking them. He's mocking them for the clapping. He's mocking them for not shouting. It's basically he's helping him rally against his opponent, and he's doing it impeccably well. It was absolutely brilliant, and the physicality between the two, as is New Japan all the time, but in this instance was absolutely phenomenal. Of course, you got Ibushi on one side. Jay White was selling like hell as well, like, because
yeah,
obviously he's putting over Ibushi's dominance. You could almost say, I wouldn't say it was like a dominant match by any means, but you could definitely tell that Ibushi had the upper hand for most of the match, and
yeah,
it was all about Jay White sort of crawling his way. It always felt like Ibushi was just better than him in most regards with wrestling. But
mm,
then what we get out of nowhere is, after a humongous physical match, was Jay White just going for that finisher, and Ibushi just, as always, because he hates his neck, sells the hell out of it.
yeah,
And immediately you just knew from that moment, looking at that cell and everything involved, it was just like, yep, that's it. That's it. That's a foregone conclusion. So in the match, you basically had Ibushi being dominant as hell, basically being God, as he likes to tout himself. You've got Jay White plucking himself away, which is kind of weird, really, when you consider heel, face, kind of a weird little dynamic there. But again, it's Ibushi, he is God. And in the end, you got a Jay White win, in which he's been dominant throughout the G1, which is cool to see as well. So, just from a pure physical, great match standpoint, great heel masterclass standpoint, and just to see Ibushi at his best, to see Jay White at his best, and him back as well, I just really enjoyed this match, and I just really wanted to make it clear. I just
yeah,
honourable mention.
yeah. No, it was. I was really debating, like arguing for this for top three, because I think this is probably like, if it was like a top five, which I guess this video kind of is, because giving five matches, but three of them are ones we've agreed on, three are kind of like personal shouts. This is definitely one I would have argued for that. like you said about Jay White playing the crowd and all that. But just his performance overall, it was like a psychological masterclass. Everything was like perfectly timed. He knew exactly when to, let Ibushi run it, and
Yeah,
then he picked his moments perfectly as well.
yeah.
Obviously, it always starts with Jay White kind of rolling out the ring and doing stuff with the crowd and stuff.
His shtick.
But like he was kind of just, I don't know what the word. I guess it's kind of like in football. You got like someone like a Perlo or a Xavi where they just sit in the midfield and they dictate the entire game. It was kind of like that kind of a performance from him. And then obviously you've got Ibushi. He's probably one of, if not the best strikers in wrestling at the moment. And it was just brilliant. I think you've pretty much gone over everything, but yeah, I just want to say I agree with it
Yeah.
all. And Jay White, especially in this match, and like this G1 as well, his performances have been amazing. He's just so you don't usually see someone. For example, when you see kind of people his age, usually they're kind of relying on flips or just athleticism because they've still got that on their side to do, and then the kind of psychology and stuff comes later. But Jay White is there, and he's already there on like Jericho levels, who's like almost double his age. So yeah, it was just an amazing match, really.
It was incredible. What about your honourable mention, my man?
Well, I'm gonna go for one which, in terms of like technical brilliance or anything, definitely wasn't up there. It was more about the story. I'm going for Roman Reigns versus J Uso from Clash of Champions, and I think some people will be like, "Oh no way," and then some people are like, "Yeah, this is the best match ever," kind of thing. It's one. I feel like it's one of those like because for WWE standards, it's really really good. It's definitely one of the best things they've done in a long time. Roman Reigns' performance and Jey Uso's performance. The performance of the two guys was brilliant. The story was very simple, but the way it was done, it was just really, really effective. There are a couple of things which I don't really want to. We're supposed to be heaping praise on these things, but I will mention like a couple of times I was a little bit cringed out by the whole tribal chief thing, especially when Paul Heyman started shouting it, and then Roman Reigns was like, "I don't want to hear from you." Just kind of shut him down, which
Yeah,
was kind of funny, kind of really cringy. But
that's fair.
yeah, generally, I don't think like there's too much to say on this because I think if you've seen it, you already probably know. But like in terms of WWE, especially, you don't usually see them actually really go out and tell a really good story. I don't want to say like they never do, but yeah, it was kind of shocking because I was expecting it to be interesting, but not as good as it was. But also, like we were talking about on the stream yesterday, if this had been in another company, I think it wouldn't have stood out as much as it does, which is probably why I wouldn't argue it for the top three. Um, and I think in our top three, we've got two matches that were just on TV, and I think that goes to show the strength of another company. But yeah, this was still brilliant, and definitely not going to be a return to glory for WWE if they ever had that. This is very much feels like a one-time thing, and they'll probably end up just having Roman against the Miz or something at the next pay-per-view or something silly like that. It's definitely something which will kind of live long in the memory of WWE fans. So that's kind of why I wanted to throw it out there and just give it a shout.
I very much get the analogy I've got in my head about this match is somewhat of like a diamond in a rough sort of thing, where
Yeah,
it stands out more because of what surrounds it
yeah,
as the company as a whole. Like the thing is with G1 and all these variety of companies, as you said, it's just you get such good stuff all the time. But considering, and we don't like, if we ever do this on a monthly basis, we'd never want this to become a thing of like, oh, this company never produces the goods. If they produce the goods in their own way, then by all means they should be appreciated and honorably mentioned for it. So no, and it did.
yeah.
I personally didn't see it. Just complete utter honesty. It's not WWE. It's not for me. But there was so many people going on about it. They obviously did something right. So yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
there's a good
And
old.
also,
Go on.
just want to say, in the two matches we've spoken about so far, two J's spelt differently.
Yeah,
Facts.
that's what we're looking for you. That's the secret recipe. That's you know, I don't
That's
know.
what Meltzer looks for.
I know I. Well, okay, so now we're heading into our top three, and I reckon we've got two from AEW, we've got one from New Japan.
Yeah.
So let's start with an AEW one first,
We'll
and
do a
I
little
reckon.
sandwich.
Oh, we'll do a little sandwich, and I reckon we should talk about the one that happened yesterday, last night. SCU versus FTR in a it was a standard match. Was it? Was it for the tag? Was it for the
It
championship?
it was. I
It
think it
was.
was for the
Oh
titles.
well,
Yeah.
I forgot. It was so good. I just completely
Yeah.
completely forgot. But this match, I'll just say my little piece on it. It had a lot to it. And what I mean by that is not just in regards to what was in the match, it was the commentary. It was the first time I think I can say in a long while where I can praise the commentary, and it wasn't even the
Yeah.
commentary desk. And that's not to say that the
Mm.
commentary is bad, by the way.
It was Hangman.
It's just to say that guys like Excalibur are good. I have my reservations with guys like JR. I don't, that's another topic for another day. But Hangman on commentary was absolutely exceptional. Even if he did very little things, it very much fit the character, it very much fit the story, and especially the moment later on where we find out about a tournament, Kenny Omega's
Yeah.
thing. That helped with that story. All of that, that we got of information that we got from Hangman during an incredible match between SCU and FTR, a match
Yeah.
where SCU, there was a great in-ring story. I can remember it really thoroughly because it was yesterday, so I'll just briefly go over it. SCU, they start off, they've got more chemistry going in, they've got more of a flow. They're getting a little bit cocky, so much so that Daniels gets involved, and then he gets himself taken out. That means that Tully Blanchard is on FTR's
After,
side. Go on.
after which, as well, when he was going out, I just wanted to say, Hangman just yells to Christopher Daniels,
Yeah.
"Hey Chris, can you get me another drink?"
Yeah,
That
yeah,
just
yeah.
cracked me up. But yeah, keep
Exactly.
going.
But that's what I mean. The little things, just those little things, they really, really add up. It didn't add to anything. Nothing happened
It's
between
just a
Daniels.
gag.
It's just a gag, and that was just great. So, of course, Daniels is gone. You've got Tully Blanchard on FTR's side. There's a little bit, of uneven ground. They've got a bit of an advantage, and you see that play out in the match then, where Tully Blanchard gets involved, and ultimately they just have a stellar match. Loads of near falls, loads of athleticism, loads of good tag team stuff. And towards the later end, when we get to the finish, who is involved in the finish is Tully Blanchard. It's just a very basic story, but incredibly well told. And in a way, the finish does protect SU to a certain extent. Not that I'm all about that, because at the end of the day,
Yeah.
I think something that AEW do good, do well is that people do generally absolutely clean lose. They do.
Yeah.
It happens fairly often. So, but they went about it in a way that made a lot of sense, and it fit because obviously FTR were struggling, and it was just an
Yeah.
act of desperation, and all those variety of things. Again, FTR looking on top of their game, but selling another great tag team at the same time. So,
Yeah.
in terms of what this match achieved, stellar. Honestly, it was stellar. I'd struggle to find something to complain about because in a variety of forms, it just delivered. So yeah,
Yeah. It played into the larger story of FDR really well because obviously a couple of weeks ago we had them kind of gloating about how they're the best and they're so much better than everyone else, and they step into the ring with the guys that they kind of called their inspirations in a way in SCU, but in a backhanded compliment kind of way of being like, "We used to love you 15 years ago," kind of thing, or whatever it was. Um, and that was really good because they then had to face SCU, who completely dominated the match up until the point where Christopher Daniels got sent out, which obviously FTR manipulated to happen. He didn't actually do anything. The ref kicked him out. So that was another little thing where it was FTR. It was kind of an act of desperation, but they managed to get it done. That's ultimately what led to them winning.
yeah,
I was also thinking, like, as the match was going on, before Christopher Daniels was kicked out by the ref, I was thinking, Tully's really doing nothing on the side, just standing there. We're not hearing him shout anything. And it's like, they're struggling here, so you'd expect something to happen. And I think it was like 2 seconds later, Christopher Daniels was chucked out, and then it was like, then there's that advantage, and you started to see it with Tully just mentioning things to people as to FTR as they would like walk past, just a little word or something, and just little things like that really helped as well. But like you said, the story, you've already pretty much laid out the story of the match, but it was just brilliantly told in a way that kind of played into that idea that FTR think they're the best. I mean, they have the belts to prove it. But they're the best, and they're looking down on everyone. But then you have these matches like SCU where they're like, well, don't actually write us off because on another day could have been very different.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really really good. You also had the time limit there, which was they made a big deal about, and I'm not sure whether that was like, I'm not really sure why, but I like the fact they did because it just kept that reminder there, and it made you think, oh, are they going to go to a draw? Are they going to do this? And they did. They did drag it out quite far, but not to the point where it was like the last few seconds kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really good as well, because it just kind of reminds you of that thing that kind of separates AEW from specifically WWE, but a lot of other companies, and that they do have those time limits, and it's just really good in that sense. So all those little details added onto the wider story and the story of the match and stuff were just really really nice. And yeah, I'd say like we've obviously seen one very very good tag team match this year. We've seen a lot of very good ones, but like this is definitely up there in terms of best tag team match of the year. It's obviously not the best because obviously we know that the one at Revolution was, but I mean, you'd be struggling to find a better, at least 2v2, because we had that brilliant 8-man tag. But 2v2, you'd be struggling to find a better one this year. It's just really, really, really good.
Yep, undoubtedly, this was a pay-per-view match on a episode of TV.
Yeah.
To put it simply. But we'll move on because that was just it was great. We've laid out our points. Now let's head in to the New Japan Pro Wrestling match that we've got in our top 3, and that is Ibushi versus Ishii, September the 27th in the G1 Climax. I couldn't tell you what night it was. It was a good night. That's all I can tell you. It was absolutely stellar. There we are. Night 5 of A Block. So
night 3 of A Block, night 5 of the tournament.
Oh yeah, you are absolutely right. And this was like, I don't have the words for it, man. I really don't have the words. It was brutal as hell. And not brutal in a gory or bloody way. Just a physical, impactful, like, undeniably strong style match.
Yeah.
It was just absolutely incredible. And I know I've said this to you off recording, off screen here. It was 15 minutes. It was 15 minutes, 41 seconds. And like, you wouldn't have thought that. You just wouldn't have thought that. It felt, not to say that it felt long, it's just they managed to pack so much within a short space of time. Yeah. And they brought it, man. They absolutely freaking brought it. You seem like you're going to say something.
I wasn't specifically, but like you said, they packed so much in. It was just like, it felt relentless, and like, you were kind of exhausted after. It kind of ruined the rest of the show because the matches couldn't keep up with this kind of level. And it was like, the other 2 matches on the card were really good, but like, this was just kind of like, it was obviously exhausting for them. But, it was kind of exhausting to watch, but in a good way. And the selling for both men, especially Ishii, though, in this match. Ishii's kind of, we know him as Mr. Consistent, puts everyone over. Even if he beats them, he still gets them over, kind of thing. He's brilliant at doing that. And his match against Suzuki earlier in the tournament, I think that was on night 1. But his match there, he genuinely looked like he'd been knocked out twice. And then obviously got beaten after those 2 times. But Ibushi, like, whenever he would do like a serious strike, Ishii was just selling the absolute shit out of it. And there were times where I was just convinced that Ibushi's just hit him too hard, and like something's gone wrong or something. Because like, the selling in a good way that wasn't too scary, like dropping people on their necks and stuff like that constantly.
Yeah.
In a good way was just really, really, really believable. And I think remember watching this match and just being like the sheer amount of times like they blocked a move and then delivered
Absolutely.
a counter shot was really, really good. And it just made you think, oh, I'm actually watching a fight, which it sounds silly because that should be every match. And most matches, I don't believe are a real fight kind of thing. Like I believe them as a wrestling match, and I believe them within their world, but I
Yeah.
don't believe them in our world. Whereas this, I did believe completely was just them. Like for all I know, they were just hitting each other for real, and
Yeah.
there was no actual plan, and they were just told whoever wants to lay down can lay down, and then Ishii was just the guy who had to do it because like
Oh, right.
it was so believable.
It genuinely was. It was just stupid. I think in terms of if you're going to picture a match where, at the end of the day, we are big like we're big fans of storytelling within matches, and we don't believe like at least my opinion's changed recently, where it's not all about the in-ring stuff. There's appreciation of having a bit of story involved in here, and the most utmost the utmost honesty here is that there wasn't too much story in this match. I say too much. There was very little. It was
Yeah,
very much two men beating the absolute crap out of one another, and so if I were to picture a match without storytelling and it was going to be in ring and someone said, okay, well, how would we do it? This is the match. This
yeah,
is because the physicality is enough to outweigh the storytelling of it. You can at least be enthralled and sort of invested in just the pure physicality and the nature of who's just going to win because each man is just throwing everything, it seems. But
yeah,
like you said, it genuinely feels like a fight.
yeah,
It at least from memory, it was just absolutely phenomenal. So this is definitely a must watch, considering it's 15 minutes of your time, right?
yeah,
If you haven't watched this, you need to freaking watch this. Get the New Japan World or something. I don't know, whatever way you find it out to watch it, but watch this and just be in utter awe of these two guys just beating the living life out of one another. You had Takagi and Osprey after this match, which was a great match, right?
yeah,
But it never lived up to this, despite being longer, considerably
yeah,
longer, in fact. Um, it didn't live up to it. To bear in mind, Takagi Osprey match was last year was a lot of people's, including mine, match of the
yeah.
year.
It's
You
one of
know,
the best matches of all time for sure. And
so
then
it's this was serious. It was great. So
yeah,
are we done with that one?
yeah. I just want to quickly add when
Go
you
ahead.
said about the story thing. The story was very, very minimalist in that it was just who's going to win, obviously in the grander scheme of the tournament.
Yeah,
But what G1 sometimes does is if it's a match like that where it hasn't got anything wider going around it, so like a personal stake or rivalry, a faction, two people from the same faction meeting, especially if one of them's the leader or something like that. If it hasn't got anything like that, it's kind of hard sometimes, and sometimes the main events do drag a little bit because you're just like, the only story really here is who's going to win. And I'm really not a fan of when matches are dragged out to 25 minutes just because they're the main event, which New Japan does do a lot. Obviously, this wasn't the main event. I think one of the things that was really the strength to this match is it left you wanting a bit more, like at least, 5 minutes more. But also the fact that it was just nice, short, and concise. It didn't allow you that time to think, oh, so when's this going to end then? Which at no point during this match did you think.
yeah.
And yeah, it was just brilliant. But like you said, like very, very minimalist story, but not to the detriment of the match because they didn't drag it out. It was just perfect, I think, for what
It
it
was
needed to be.
honestly, for what it needed to be, it was perfect. And so then we move on to the final one in our top three. Just to let you know as well, if you have a top three, all of that good stuff, if you disagree with us here, or just while I'm thinking about it, if you disagree with us, if you got any honourable mentions, all this variety of stuff, Let us know in the comments, because at the end of the day, the beauty of all of this, and I hate to sound cheesy, but we all have different tastes. We all have different favorites. If you
I
are a
respect your
WWE,
opinion.
if you're a WWE mark and you think a particular match on Raw was absolutely stellar, then you by all means say that, because you are absolutely entitled to that opinion, even if we think it's shit. So, right? So, but by all means, let us know what you think, honestly, because I would be
We
interested. Because I do find it interesting. I do genuinely find it interesting seeing other people's perspectives and how they envision their favorite style of wrestling and all that sort of stuff. It's just, it's
yeah
really interesting to see what people's favorites are. We've got a couple of friends over in Twitter land, and we can tell which matches are going to be their favorites because they've got certain styles. So just really interested to
yeah
see what people think.
yeah.
So the final one in our top three, I bigged it up a little, but it's September the 16th, AEW Dynamite, the main event at the time of the show, Proud and Powerful versus Best Friends in a parking lot brawl. Now, I heard a speech there. Are you going to say something?
No, no,
Oh,
I didn't. I literally didn't say anything.
oh, I thought I heard a little something. So the story heading in was incredibly simple but incredibly effective for a TV feud.
People were actually criticizing the story. I thought like when they announced this, until it was like a parking lot brawl, I wasn't that interested in them. And then it was like, well, the other brawls they've done have been really good, so at least it's going to be entertaining, kind of thing. Um, but like there are a lot of people who are like, this feud's silly. I think they'd already had like 2 or 3 matches at this point, and it was just like, oh, well, we're having another one of these. We've had them, just end it now. Um, and it's like, but the way this kind of captured everything that kind of come before, especially when we come to the end with the minivan and stuff like that, things like Orange Cassidy popping out, and then just the sheer violence and throughout it. It was another one where like the story wasn't front and center, which usually is something that we would want. We want
Yeah, yeah,
there
yeah.
to be
By all
a
means.
significant thing in the better in our better matches. But this was just one where it's just like it was very simple going in. Um, and again, a lot of people kind of wanted this to end at this point, and then they just went out there, and it was just amazing.
Nope, that's it though. But the thing is, there's only so much you can expect from a TV fuse. The AEW very much operates completely different than in WWE, and we've had a year of AEW now to really recognize that. And what that is they'll have a pay per view very their pay per views are very well spread out. Like where the gap between two AEW pay per views, you might have a takeover and another WWE pay per view in between if you were to pin them against one another. Like in regards to the
Yeah,
time frames between them, so a lot of the time they've got to fill in quite a lot throughout the Dynamite episodes to really keep things fresh, entertaining, and move things forward. They're guilty of spinning the wheels sometimes, but as is every show that's on a weekly basis, it's just one of those things that you just got to deal with. But
mm,
in regards to this match, it, like you said, it just encapsulated absolutely everything that was coming in beforehand, whether it was the car trashing, whether it was Sue, whether it was all this variety of little things, the physicality, Orange Cassidy, as you say, and I'm just retracing what you're saying, but it was, I don't know, I just really loved what they did in regards to having a TV feud. There was bits spread out on a weekly basis, and then we get a main event out of it. I think
yeah,
we saw last night where we had John Moxley and the Butcher main event, and although I saw a lot of people really hyped for that, personally I wasn't too much of a bigger fan of it, because it
yeah,
just didn't feel right. It
mm,
just especially considering there was a surprise and stuff. That's a different point, but this felt right because there was lots of little bits going in between. And at the end of the day, we saw two guys that sometimes we don't see. We've seen a lot of best friends throughout the pandemic thing because they were available. Proud and Powerful we
yeah,
don't see too much of as a unit in themselves, not affiliate within a circle, but just them two.
yeah.
Seeing them go about their business as well was just great in this match as well, and they utterly killed it as well. And the physicality, also the energy as well. a lot of the
Yeah.
people around in the car parks, everything, they were really providing a bit of energy.
Yeah.
You can obviously compare this to Velveteen Dream and Adam Cole's parking lot brawl and NXT if you wanted to, and you
Yeah.
could definitely see the faults in NXT's match, particularly in regards to the story heading in wasn't too strong. The actual match probably was a bit too long. There wasn't actually too much going
It
on.
was
There was,
it was one of the worst matches I've ever seen, and
yeah, yeah,
I say that just because like it was literally just Velveteen Dream beating up Adam Cole, and then Adam Cole hit two moves and then won, and the
yeah,
Undisputed Era came and ran in. And it's like it was so pointless, and in an era when we haven't got the crowds and stuff, I think um, matches like these backstage brawls or parking lot brawls and stuff, they can be really good because obviously you wouldn't usually have a crowd there. So it
yeah.
kind of makes sense to do more matches like these, and also we've seen more cinematic matches as well.
Hmm.
And some of them have been really good, and then some of them didn't. And this is one of the ones. This is probably in terms of like in the era of no crowds. This is probably the best. Oh, Stadium Stampede was really good as well, and obviously the
Uh-huh.
Firefly Funhouse was really good. Those three are probably the ones that really stand out. But like you said, they managed to create that atmosphere. But the main thing in terms of a match itself is it still wasn't just random moves. Like you had little things that called back to the previous things that happened in this feud.
Yeah.
Obviously, again, you had like little moments like Orange Cassidy is popping out. You had comedy throughout this match. Like it kind of had a little bit of everything,
Mm.
and then delivered a really. And on top of that, it was just like super brutal. Like there was a spot where I think it was Trent got just thrown basically through a windshield.
Mm.
Everyone was just getting twatted with like poles and stuff. It was just like so much. You had the face paint as well, which is an aesthetic thing rather than something which is actually, you know, anything significant. But it was a really
Mm.
cool little touch to make it seem a little bit more special. And Proud and Powerful just looked really cool.
Mm.
So there's that as well. But you kind of just had like, in terms of something where you've not got the strongest story heading in and you haven't got a crowd, how do you make the most out of that situation? I don't think you really could have done better than this.
Yeah. I'm in agreement. And so there we are. That is our
We
September.
didn't talk about Sue
Oh, we haven't talked about it.
again.
But I don't know. But it's just it was after the match.
Nah, it still counts. It still was in the presentation.
Yeah, it was still in the presentation. Yeah, I went on too quickly. Yeah, and then to cap it all off, I think at the moment that a lot of people were gifting all over social media was Sue putting that middle finger up towards Provo. Oh, it was just great. It was really good. It was
Driving
silly.
off in her little van, which has been fixed, or maybe she got a new one. I don't know.
Who knows? Who knows? But regardless, it was a nice little. It was just fun, man. It was
It's
it was fun in every sense of the word. This feud and match as a whole, and so, and from a TV standpoint, that was just great. You can't expect much more. I mean, if you
yeah,
want like revolutionary storytelling, leave that to the pay-per-views, and leave that for the big, massive moments. But I just think for TV, they absolutely. Obviously, you can pick holds if you chose to, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't think they did much wrong with this feud.
yeah.
They made it fun. They used guys that people are very much on the train of they're using WWE guys and everything, all that sort of stuff. We
Mm.
hear that a lot. This is just an example of them not doing that.
Trent's a WWE guy.
Oh well, there we are. Fuck me. Just because he set foot in the freaking company.
He was there for a few years, and he was, he's been away for like 10 or however long it's been. Now, mate,
Going by
still
that,
used one.
going by that logic, MJF is a WWE guy.
Kenny
'Cause
Omega, he was there in developmental.
he was there on the screen on the bloody Thunderdome. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah.
He was there. Yeah, so there we are. He's a WWE guy as well.
Was that actually him, or was that someone like had picked up a picture of him and kind of put it to the screen or something?
as far as I was aware, he actually admitted to it actually being him, and he just said he wanted to watch it because it was fun. He wanted to be involved or something like that. It sounded interesting to him or something like that.
Fair enough.
But I didn't read too much into it. This is all just headlines that I saw or scrolling through social media at the time.
Yeah.
But either way, capture off with Sue, good old Sue. That was our September best matches. Well, the best matches of
Yeah.
September. And as I said before, please let us know your thoughts, all that good stuff. They are very, very much all great matches. Hell, my and Gareth's sort of, how can I say this, vision of wrestling, like the wrestling that we do watch, that's not all of it. Maybe there's an Impact match that you thought was
Yeah.
absolutely stellar. Maybe there was that backyard wrestling, I forgot what it's called, because I've just seen loads of them. Maybe there was one of them that was actually
Yeah,
ridiculous.
there was a GCW show, wasn't there, that loads of people
Yeah.
were going on about. I didn't watch it, but
You know,
some really good talent involved, and some of the spots I saw were amazing. So I'm sure some of those matches are really good.
yeah. So by
I'm
all
sure-
means, go on.
I was just going to say, I'm sure if anyone has got another one, wrestling fans are never quiet about it.
Oh no, but I think that's kind of the beauty of it a little bit. It can be a bad thing sometimes, but when we talk about the stuff that we enjoyed, the stuff that we loved, it's always a great thing, and we'd always love to expand our knowledge and understanding of other stuff that's going on. So
Yeah.
by all means, let us know if you enjoyed anything else. And with that, we say thank you very much for watching us. You can expect us here I say here, we'll be over on our Twitch at official_IHW. This is where we live stream AW Dynamite. We did that last night, so you can expect to see us next week on Wednesday. Am I
the
right?
takeover?
Yep, we've got a takeover coming up promptly this Sunday, so we'll be live streaming for that as well. And if you liked any of this content, and if you're at this point, then thank you ever so much. And I assume you somewhat enjoyed it to a certain extent, there'll be a couple of videos going throughout the week as well, and you can just stay tuned in for them as well. So,
Yep.
With that being said, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
Goodbye.